Hi, everyone. I am Mary Kate. I'm the marketing specialist here with Hasmark Publishing International, and I am joined today by my co-host, Jen Gibson. She is the Director of Publishing and Marketing with Hasmark, and we are really excited today to introduce you to one of our wonderful authors. We have Dr. Daniela Steyn with us today. She has written a book, Thrive Through Menopause, and we are very excited to be chatting about this book today with you and with her. So I wanted to start off, Daniela, and say congratulations on your wonderful book. And
Thank you.
tell us a little bit about the title, Thrive Through Menopause, kind of how it came to be, and how it encompasses everything that the book's about.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks, Mary Kate, and thanks, Jen. I'm so excited about this book. So the specific title, Thrive Through Menopause, the reason why I chose that is quite a lot of patients come to me when they go through menopause, and they tell me that they feel that they're in a big hot mess. And I really want to a little bit break the stigma and say that menopause doesn't have to be a hot mess. Menopause can be amazing. And usually people come and they just want to survive. They just want to get through this. But you don't have to. And they're so surprised afterwards when we implement all these things that you'll read about in the book. When we implement that, they literally thrive through it. So it's not just that you have to survive, you have to get through it. You can go through it and be stronger, be healthier than you've been before.
What do you believe is one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to going through and also discussing the topic of menopause?
There are so many. I don't even know where to start. The first one is we have to discuss menopause. That's a big one. A lot of women don't discuss menopause. I see so many patients in my clinic who would not be discussing this with their partners. And even when we're working through menopause, after 3 months, 6 months of working with this woman through menopause, her husband, who would also be my patient, would say, you know what, my wife it's so weird. She would always have the aircon on very cold. What? And then I'm like, what have you guys not been discussing what you've been going through? I've been seeing your wife weekly, but you haven't had that conversation. So my first thing is to have that conversation. And then in a lot of cultures, I find that women don't discuss it, especially cultures where your fertility is tied very closely to your worth as a woman. In that cultures, it's often harder for a woman to say that I'm coming to the end of my fertility. How do I cope with that? That is hard where women haven't had that conversation with their mothers, with their sisters. So that's the biggest thing, is to have that conversation. The next thing that I find is a big myth is women often think that they should go through menopause similar to what their moms have gone through. And I find that because of a lot of toxins that we're exposed to in our environment, we call them xenoestrogens. It's really pesticides, plastics, things in our food that mimic estrogen that cause us to have more false estrogen into our body. It causes women to have a much harder time when they go through menopause than their mom has been. And that might make it very hard for a woman if she feels that she's really struggling through this phase and she reaches out to her mom and her mom says, no, it's not that bad. Her mom just maybe had a couple of night sweats, couple of bad hair days because of the night sweats, and she was fine. I feel to diminish that from your mom, who is the one person, that you look up to. My patients find that very hard. So I think that's a myth, to think that you should go through it the same way your sister or your mom has. That's a big myth.
Absolutely. I love that you talk about kind of breaking the stigma too, because it's so important. It's something that obviously women are going through, but like you said, men in our lives are there and they should be there to support us. And I think they need just as kind of much education on the topic too. So that's
to understand.
Yeah.
Because when men go through their teenage years and they learn about their own puberty, they learn about women puberty as well. We get quite a lot of education in high school about puberty. But that's a similar education that you really need to the end of your fertile period about menopause. That's not out there. And that's really my goal with this book, is to explain to women first what is going through your body so that women understand it. Quite often when they understand it, because women often come to me in my clinic with different symptoms. symptom A, symptom B, and they ask, do you think I could be, oh, I ask them, say they come with anxiety or irritability, brain fog, I would ask, do you think you could be going through menopause? And they're like, no, I'm too young for that. So it's not really a disease of when you're older. It's a very natural life process of when you're still young. Women start going, our mean age is at 51. But then typically women start going through it 10 years before already, maybe in their 40s and then up to 60. So between 40 and 60, quite often when women are in those perimenopausal years, they might have some symptoms. And they only piece together that those symptoms were caused by menopause 5 or 6 years later when their period stopped. But you can improve your quality of life so significantly if you realize these things that you are experiencing is natural. But even though it's natural, it doesn't mean you have to suffer. There are many things you can do to make it better. And that's really what you'll learn in this book. There's lifestyle things, foods that you can eat, types of exercise, movement, how to get rid of stress, how to balance your adrenal glands, all these things that you can do to significantly improve your quality of life, to enjoy life, to find joy. That's what a lot of people tell me after they've worked with me through menopause, that now they have joy again. When they came, they didn't have as much joy. Mm-hmm. And that's also a genuine question about myths. Another thing is the World Health and Women's Health Initiative brought out this study in 2001 where they really spoke about the dangers of hormone replacement therapy. And there's a lot of myths still around that, where women would come into the clinic and say they just don't want hormone therapy because it's not safe. So, and a lot has happened in the past 20 years where they've done more studies, new studies, but that had very good outcomes. But generally, studies with good outcomes doesn't get as much media attention, right? So a lot of women don't know about the good. So, and that's really where this book started out, when women came to me and they said, I can't use hormone therapy. What can I do? So that's really what the heart of this book is. It's giving you all the other strategies, things you can do if you don't want hormone therapy, herbs that are helpful, lifestyle things that are helpful, how to sleep better. There are so many symptoms. If you have a dry vagina, if sexual intercourse is painful, what can you do? So that's really the heart of the book, was to talk about everything else than hormone therapy. But then I also realized that there's still misconceptions about hormone therapy. So I added a chapter specifically on hormone therapy. What is safe, what not, when is it safe, when not? If you do need hormone therapy, how do you go about to ask your own doctor? So yes, there's lots of myths around hormone therapy.
Absolutely. And we all know how scary it can get when you start to Google the symptoms that you're dealing with. So that's why this book is very important. And I'm curious to know for you, Daniela, what was the most difficult part of the writing process? Was it kind of narrowing down everything you wanted to include? How did you kind of overcome any difficulties you had while writing?
So I had incredible help from Gerda, who's at Wellness MD. She's our director of education. So she spent hours and hours to go through everything that I'm writing to make sure that this is latest research, that there's not been research published later that's different, right? Because I might be implementing things with my patients that work very well, but there might be new research that came out 6 months ago, a year ago, that I don't know about. So that was hours and hours of research on her side to really make sure that this is that it's evidence-based and scientific, everything in the book. But then once we gave the book to the editor came back to us and says that this is not easy to read. How do we take, and so then we had to take out a lot of proof and evidence where I would say, yes, this herb is helpful and this is the science behind it. This is the study done. So then we kind of had to take that out. So the references are still there. So for people who are interested to say, you know what, is this herb really helpful? What proof do you have? The reference is in the back of the book. But for those people can then go in, have a look and see what the science is. But then, yes, we had to go back through the whole book and take all the science that make it more difficult to read out. So the science are still there, but it's not inside the paragraphs. It's just mentioned at the end.
Excellent. What do you hope both women and men learn from reading this book that will change the way we all view menopause?
I want readers to know that menopause is an incredible, wonderful phase in a woman's life. It's a phase where your brain is literally rewiring itself. It's a phase where you have a lot of wisdom, a phase that you can heal from previous unhealthy relationships, a phase where you can really look forward and say, where do I want to be at the end of my life? Where do I want to be when I'm 80, 90, 100 years old? And then implement certain lifestyle things that will predict where you're going to be in your golden years. And we have the power now to do that. When you go through menopause, if you make lifestyle changes, if you make sure that you get exercise every day, that you sleep better, that you avoid unhealthy relationships, that you avoid things that are breaking your body down. Quite often there are toxins that you're not even aware of, things you've been doing your whole life. Even if you've had a glass of wine every day your whole life, after menopause, your body doesn't have that ability to metabolize it as such. If you continue to do that, it will break down your muscles. You will have a medical condition we call sarcopenia, but it just means very thin muscles, where you will most likely get a fracture from osteoporosis in your older days. And then if you don't have strong muscles, you might spend the last year after a fracture in your life in hospital. Whereas if you read this book now, you implement these lifestyle changes now, you make sure you do things to prevent osteoporosis. You make sure that you really improve your bone health. You make sure you really improve your muscle health. You can make these changes at 40, 50, 60. That's going to drastically improve your longevity, make you live longer, but make you live with a better quality of life.
Absolutely. Now, why would you say that this topic of menopause is so important to you, Dr. Daniela, and why did you choose to kind of write specifically on this?
So as a physician and a female physician, I had a lot of patients coming to me regarding menopause. And as my mom has gone, so my mom went through menopause when that Women Health Initiative study was published, and women, I told her, I was in medical school at the time, and I told her she has to stop her estrogen right away. And interestingly, when that got published, we had a talk about that in class where they explained to us, this is not the type of estrogen that we give our patients. It's a different type of estrogen. The people used in the study was typically 20 years older. They were not going through menopause at the time. They did it in a much older group, obviously, because then you get more dramatic results, right? If you test it in healthy 50 years old, you won't get the same dramatic results when you test it on women 80 years old with heart disease. So I understand why the study was done the way it was, but we don't do studies that way anymore. Now, when we study menopause drugs, we study it on women going through menopause. We don't test it on women without menopausal symptoms 20 years later. However, I remember in med school, they did explain to us the background regardless. I told my mom she has to go off her hormone replacement therapy. And she didn't want to because she felt that this estrogen really gave her. My mom was in a very high demanding job. And women are typically at the peak of their career when they go through menopause, as my mom was. And there's a whole chapter in the book about that. How do we cope in the workplace, and how do we make sure that it doesn't, that we don't step back during this phase? Because my mom was excelling at her career. She was in a very high profile position at work. And she felt that she couldn't compete with women 20, 30 years younger than her if she's not on her estrogen. She felt it gave her the edge. It helped her sleep better. And it helps you not to have hot flashes during high stakes meetings. You know, if you're presenting to a big group of people and you have a hot flash, or if you don't sleep the night before, it really impacts your work. I insisted she should go off hormone therapy. So we looked at different strategies to treat all her menopausal symptoms. So we found things, and my dear mom listened, and we really tried all the different herbs that had evidence about it at that stage, lifestyle measures, foods, things that had evidence. And so she tried all of that. So I saw that what was successful in my mom, I really kept reading. And when my patients came to me and they said they don't want to be on hormone therapy, so it's been for the past 15, more than 15, almost 20 years now, 18 years now, that I've been implementing all these other things with women who says they don't want hormone therapy. So the focus of the book is not as much hormone therapy. There is a lot of research out there. Most people can get that for their doctors. The focus of the book is really what has evidence, what have I implemented in my practice with women that significantly improve their quality of life. And that's really what the heart of this book is. Not all people have access to me. I get more than 10 emails every day from women who says, please, can you be my doctor? And I cannot. I work in Canada, in Ontario. I only see people in Ontario. I only have so many hours in my day. I also teach at the university, at the medical university. So that I love that, but it does take some of my time. I work at a big hospital. I love that, but that takes time. 3 amazing children, amazing husband, I have a dog. Those things take time, right? So I can't work 24 hours a day. So my goal with the book is things that I implement with my patients, everything is wrapped up in this book. So if you can't see me as a doctor, you can just read through this book, do these things, and you're gonna have an amazing, amazing experience through menopause.
Yes, sorry. What do you want? Oh, is this the one I'm supposed to read? Sorry, I messed up, but we'll correct it. Is that
That's
what do you want me to start? Is that what I'm reading?
I can do more.
That's okay. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
Want to just ask like the number one
Mary-
takeaway for readers? Just put it.
Yeah.
Like
Okay. Sorry. Okay. What is the number one takeaway from this story?
It's that there is hope. I really want to give hope through this book. Things can be better than it is now. The reason you're buying this book would likely be because you're going through a very difficult phase. And things are going to get better. You can be stronger. You can be healthier. There are things that you can do that will improve your quality of life. And people often don't know that. They would maybe be sexual intercourse might be very painful and they might think, oh, this is the end of sex for me. No, it doesn't have to. You can have an amazing sex life after menopause, but you must understand there's less estrogen around the vaginal skin. So it does get thinner. So there's not as much blood supply. So there are things that you need to do to thicken that skin, to moisturize more, but then afterwards it can be amazing. So the number one takeaway, whatever symptom you have, and what I've done in this book, I'm busy. I know that people don't always have time to read through a whole book. And I really get that. And a lot of my patients are really thriving at their careers. They have aging parents to care for. They have teenagers in their house to care for. So I realized that most women are very busy. So what I've done in this book is I've indexed it in such a way that if you have a specific symptom, say your symptom is decrease in concentration, or your symptom is brain fog, or your symptom is that you've gained weight, or your symptom is whatever it could be, getting more bladder infections, you can just look up that symptom. And then on that page, all the different management strategies for that symptom is on that page. So whatever it is that you're struggling with, you can very easily reference it, see it, and then find your remedy. And you're going to improve your quality of life significantly. You're going to thrive. You're not just going to survive menopause, you're going to thrive.
That's incredible. And I love that it's laid out in that manner because it makes it so easy for people to kind of just reference exactly what they need and go back. It's one of those books that you're going to want to go back and read again and again, because who knows what symptom you could be dealing with day to day or week to week. So it's great. It's a good guide to have on hand. Absolutely.
And this book also doesn't only guide when you're going through menopause. You can buy this book 10 years earlier because it really explains what to expect so it doesn't take you off guard. When you go through menopause, it's going to be gold, of course. But then also if you've gone through menopause 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and there are things like the sex that I mentioned, it often bug women really much later to know that you can still do something about it. Or if you've maybe gained weight, and you're 10 years after menopause, there are things that you can do to really lose that weight and be stronger than you've been before. So whatever phase of life you're either going to go through menopause one day, or you're going through menopause now, or you've gone through menopause. So there are all these lifestyle things that you're significantly going to benefit from. You're going to be stronger. You're going to be healthier. You're going to have more energy. You're going to have more joy. And that's what it's really about, to help my readers to have more joy.
I love that. Now, when does Thrive Through Menopause launch, and how can people get a hold of a copy?
So I'm so excited. They can pre-order the book now on my website. It's www.danielasteyn.com. So they can pre-order the book now. The pre-orders are only available in Canada and the US. For people outside of Canada and the US, the book is going to be available end May on Amazon.
Excellent. Where can people find you and learn more about you online?
So I have a YouTube channel. I think that's often easiest, because what I've been doing is I've been interviewing other experts in the menopause field, and I've put those videos on YouTube, so that's easy to see. So if you just look at my name, Dr. Daniela Steyn, you'll find me on YouTube. And please subscribe. I would love that. If you subscribe, then you'll get like a message every time another one of my videos release. Then you can find me on Instagram on Daniela Steyn. You can find me on everywhere, on Twitter, Facebook. You know what? We have a Facebook group, Thrive Through Menopause, where many women who are going through menopause go on there to share their experience, to really form a supportive community. And the people who are on there love that. So if you are going through menopause now, I recommend that you join. It's a free Facebook group where you can join other women, and I moderate it, which I I know it's helpful. So that if there is a myth out there where women say, oh, during menopause, you can't do this or you can't do that, then I can step up and say, scientifically, this is the science about menopause, but people can really support each other. And then, and then you can look at my wellness clinic as well. It's wellnessmdhealth.com. And there's resources, a lot of resources, free resources on my website.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for chatting with us today, Dr. Daniela. It's so incredible. We're so excited for this book to be out in the world and to be helping women and men everywhere. So we are so excited to be launching Thrive Through Menopause. And thank you for chatting with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Mary Kay. Thank you so much for having me, Jen. And thank you to Hasmark, who's bringing this dream to life. Hasmark is going to help so many people through publishing this. It is just, you're making the world a better place. Thank you for that.
Thank you.